Welcome to the Childcare Genius Podcast, the world's leading authority on childcare marketing, mindset, expansion, and profitability. Each episode will feature interviews with the brightest minds in the childcare industry to guide you into becoming a smarter business leader. Our hosts have opened 10 schools while raising 5 children. They are certified business coaches and are the top-selling childcare business book authors of all time. This episode is sponsored by Childcare Genius Marketing. Let Childcare Genius Marketing help you get fully enrolled and fully staffed. Visit childcaregenius.com for more details. Let's welcome to the Childcare Genius Podcast our hosts, Brian and Carol Duprey.
Hello and welcome to the Childcare Genius Podcast. I'm your host, Brian Duprey, along with my talented co-host for this week, Sindye Alexander. How you doing, Sindye?
I am doing great. Thank you for having me back. This has been a fun conversation.
Yeah, I love it. We're going to be talking today a little bit about culture and how to hire to the culture. Make sure you get the right fit, because if you hire the wrong person, boy, it could be bad for your company. And how do you find that right person? What does this say? They have all the right qualifications. How do we find that right person? So let's go in there and talk about it. So say, what should somebody look for? Like, somebody goes in interview, they send an application in or a resume, and it looks great on paper. How do we assess them to make sure that they fit in line with what we're looking for in a culture and not just a paper fit?
You know, I'm so glad that you asked this question, because I experienced this exact same thing. When I started my my business, you know, I really bootstrapped it. You know, you tell a story all the time that your best friend loaned you $5,000 and that's how you started your business. And I wasn't that much different. I started in my family. In my home, I bootstrapped it up. I opened a small center. I was able to grow and then expand, you know, and open a larger center later. But it took me some time to bring on a staff of employees. I always had 1 or 2 helpers, but, you know, a staff of employees. And I remember the day that I got this application from this woman. She had a master's degree in early childhood education. She had experience teaching in the school system. And she was actually in some of my husband's college classes. He was doing his coursework for his counseling degree. Anyway, I thought I hit the jackpot with this woman. She was the most qualified person I had ever hired. I was so excited to have her lead my GSRP program because I needed to have certain qualifications for that program. And I thought I hit the jackpot. I was so excited. And then she started working for me. Oh my God, she was more educated than everyone. She knew better than everyone. She had been in the public school system, and they have different resources. So they could do things a little bit more, thoroughly. They tracked things differently. Anyway, long story short, she was better than everybody in her eyes, and everybody felt it. Everybody felt it. She stayed on my team for 2 weeks because I could tell immediately this was not going to work. She wasn't the right culture fit. She was meant for a different environment, and a small startup childcare business was not the right place for her. Okay. I'm sure she did great elsewhere. I mean, I'm not saying anything negative necessarily about her. I'm sure she did great elsewhere, but she wasn't the fit for my school, my center, my early education program. And so I think that was one of the best decisions I ever made, was to not keep her too long. But I think I could have picked up on some of the clues a little bit more closely in the interview if I wasn't so enamored with all of the qualifications and listed on the bullet points on the menu, because she did demonstrate that arrogance, almost like, yeah, I know it, I don't know. It was arrogant, and it was kind of like, I know better than everybody else type of a feeling. And you get it, but sometimes you second guess yourself. Like, did I feel that? I certainly, maybe I'm overthinking this, like you second guess yourself. So I would really, really pay attention to the energy of the person when they come in the room. I would look for stories, ask them how they found a problem and solved it for a previous employer. How did they solve a conflict with a coworker? How did they handle a difficult situation in a previous job? What is something that they're proud of having accomplished? What are some things they do to give back to the community? Like, ask questions that kind of lead them to talk about your core values or what's important to you and your culture, and how they have demonstrated that in the past or in their previous life. Also, questions that kind of lead towards social emotional intelligence, because sometimes you can be really smart, but to read the room and to know when is the time to say that or not say it, that is important as well. So energy, demonstrating your core values, and listen to that gut instinct. I did have a couple little twinges, but I was enamored. So don't make Sindye's mistakes.
Yeah, it's challenging. And we didn't know
Mhm.
much about workplace culture when we first started, either one of us. And you
No.
learn real fast. Now, sometimes we get it right, sometimes we get it wrong.
Mhm.
But you're right. Sometimes that gut instinct is really good. Now, how do you introduce workplace culture to new hires during onboarding? Like, you're bringing them on, you're getting them through the onboarding process. How do
Mhm.
you integrate them into your workplace culture? And you might make a mistake and actually hires the wrong fit. Onboarding is another chance where you can find out if they're a good fit. So how do we
Yeah,
do that?
for sure. And I'm going to take it a little a step back a little bit further, because bringing a new hire in to your culture and making sure that you get the right fit starts before they even apply. You have to really be dialing in on your culture in an intentional way, doing little things like you've got to have some kind of intentional culture boosting activity at least monthly. And I'm not talking about just a pizza party. Those pizza parties and donuts on Fridays and those types of things, those do not make a culture. Those are symptoms of a better culture, but they are not going to fix your culture. Okay. It really starts with the open and honest communication, a feeling of safety in the workplace among the people that already work for you, with the families that come into you, a good reputation in the community, um, adequate supplies, those types of things. Because when you're out there in the community and somebody knows ABC childcare is the greatest place to work because I've heard about it from other families, I've heard about it from other people that work there, I see their location when I drive by. Like, there's a lot of aspects that go into attracting somebody to even apply to work for you. So if you get it right and you have a good reputation and high quality program within the community, you're going to attract the better people to start with. But let's say you're not perfect. None of us are. That's okay. You can start where you're at, and you're going to have to be looking for people that you think can help raise up your culture. I would make it very clear in the interview process and in the onboarding process that the culture is really, really important to you, because this is, it's a caregiving business. You're educating and caring for the most precious people in our communities. And in order to do that, you have to have people that are positive, that want to make a difference, and that are willing to do, what it takes to provide, that high quality care and education and move your mission and your vision forward. So I would talk about your core values. I would really, really go over that. Maybe have some activities. Even, and I'm just thinking about this off the top of my head, you could have them write a paragraph or, answer a question, or just really talk about each core value during the onboarding process. And then just talking about it and telling them, hey, these are our 5 core values on an onboarding, that is not enough. The core values really have to come through every day or every week. They need to be referred to, with decisions, or with the feeling or the way things operate, with correction. When you have to correct somebody, oh, like this doesn't hold up to our high quality core values. So You just really have to talk about it, and then your actions have to back that up. And people that want to do the work and want to make the effort to be a part of that type of a culture are going to, and the ones that don't, they're gonna like self-select themselves to be removed from the situation because they just won't fit. They won't fit in if you're doing it right.
You mentioned person who doesn't fit. Can somebody who doesn't fit become a fit if we give them time, or you're better off to pull the Band-Aid off? Like, at what point is a tipping point to say, okay, I've invested enough here?
It's a really good question. I think in odd cases, somebody who wants to fit can make a change. Sometimes people are not aware that what they're doing or saying is impacting other people in a negative way. And sometimes a conversation to make them aware and to tell them what you expect going forward, sometimes that is enough. I don't have any scientific research, but my gut feeling is that might happen about 20% of the time or less. The rest of the time, they're demonstrating who they are with their attitude and their energy, because culture fit is really more about attitude and energy than skills. If somebody is trying really hard and failing at an activity, but you see the effort, to me, that effort is more important than the mastery of a certain thing. Like, for instance, classroom management. Some people are not, they think that because they babysat their cousins, they've worked with kids. But working with family at home is different than working with a bunch of different people's children in a group setting. And so classroom management is sometimes challenging. And so they don't know what to do at first. But when you give them some skills and give them some words to say and give them some tricks, to get the little attention spans of the little children, and you see them trying and they haven't quite mastered it, but they're making progress, they're putting in the effort, that's really important. But if they're just like, these kids, man, I can't wait for this day to be over. I can't wait for 5 o'clock to get around because these kids are on my last nerve, or whatever they say, they're not a good fit. They don't want to work with children.
So let's talk about how can we improve our culture other ways. So what, like small gestures or systems, what can we do to make our staff feel valued, which of course improves the culture of the entire school if everybody feels valued? How do we do that on a day-to-day basis?
Well, on a day-to-day basis, I think leaders really need to get involved in noticing and appreciating very specific things that their team does. And like, what I mean by that is I could tell you, Brian, hey, Brian, thank you so much for all the hard work that you put in today. Good job. I really appreciate you.
Thank you.
And I might think that I have just appreciated you. But if I said to you, oh my gosh, Brian, thank you so much for jumping in and covering the classroom while Susie had to deal with that vomit issue. Those kids were about to just start jumping off the walls, and you really saved the day when you stepped in because you recognized that your classroom, was in ratio and that there was a problem over here. I so much appreciate that you held the fort down until I got there to step in.
Big difference.
I think that that's a big difference because you're recognizing that the effort that somebody took to go above and beyond, or even just to do their job. Oh, Susan, your cubbies look great today. I can tell that, that you spent some time organizing them yesterday. That's just part of the job. That's just something that's expected, but you recognize that they did it. Okay. Yep. When your staff feels like you are noticing that they are doing things to help in the business, even if it's mundane, everyday things that they're expected to do, it really goes toward that feeling of appreciation and connection with not only connection with their leaders, but connection with the fact that they feel like they're doing something right. They're making a difference. They're appreciated at work. And so I think that's really important. And now I'm losing what the rest of the question was. Oh, what can we do?
Improving. Yeah, improve the whole culture.
Improve. Yeah, so I think noticing and recognition. And I also feel like you should say those types of things in front of other people. So when Karen hears you say to Susan that she did a great job on the cubbies, Susan is recognized even only in front of, one person, but it's more impactful than when it's private, unless it's a private matter. Okay. Another thing I think is really important that, in any culture situation is really having like methods or systems for communication dialed in. Not only should the leaders be approachable and practice and hold a space for open and honest communication within the workplace, there needs to be some systems and channels to keep everybody informed about what's going on. What is the lunch menu for next week? What is the playground schedule? Who's going home early? Who has a doctor's appointment? When is the next staff meeting? What's expected of me as far as, a new policy or procedure? Those things need to be communicated because when I wrote my book, Relationship Roadmap, I talked about staff demotivators or culture crushers. Okay. And I learned about these from other culture experts, in the community. But these culture crushers or staff demotivators, I think I have 31 or 32 of them. 16 of them are about communication. So if people aren't getting the information they need to do their jobs, or they're getting met with snarky or instantaneous responses without hearing them out, when they're out of the loop or feeling like things are secretive, there's a lot of different aspects for communication. But when you don't have your communication dialed in, it can lead to a lot of problems. Is basically what I'm trying to say. So
good. Well,
communication is another one.
Next week, we're going to come back and do all about communication, conflict resolution, team dynamics. So that's a good segue into that. So we'll break for today. And I'm going to bring Sindye back next week for the part 3 of this series on culture building and getting your center culture up and ready to go. And thank you so much for taking time out of your busy life, Sindye, to join us today. And don't forget, tickets are now on sale for our Leverage Conference in thinking the wrong country here, Riviera Maya, Mexico, September 29th to October 2nd. And that's at the Iberostar Paricio Hotel. Go to our website at childcaregenius.com, the conference tab, look for Leverage Financial Conference. Everything in the conference has to do with finances, improving your finances. And also we have a $1 million guarantee. You're going to learn $1 million worth of information, or you'll get your money back. That's a pretty darn good deal. So we hope to see you there, and we hope to, again, see you next week at the Child Care Genius Podcast. I'm your host, Brian Duprey, along with Sindye Alexander. We'll see you next week. Have a good night.
Thank you for listening to the Child Care Genius Podcast. If you enjoyed the show, please do us a favor and hit the subscribe button so you don't miss a future episode. Don't forget to visit our website at childcaregenius.com to see a list of services we offer to help grow your childcare business. Until next time, thank you for being a part of the Childcare Genius community.